Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be this water balloon nail set, perfect for summer. So I'm starting off with a bunch of different gel polishes. I wanted to have some bright colors for the balloons so that it would really stand out and just be super fun and summery and nostalgic. So just pulling out a bunch of these bright colors here. And then I am going to do the very popular trendy like water pool nail design. So if that's something that you've been curious about or wondering how that's created, then keep watching. I'm going to do that for the two end nails over here. And then the middle three nails are going to get 2 layers of this clear gel, this clear glass gel from Vettsy. It's a shade Frozen. So all of the nails are going to get this shade over here. The 3 middle ones will get a second coat, and then the 2 end ones are going to get that really cool watery pool design that's been super trendy last year, and it looks like it's trendy again this year. So I decided with the water theme going on, it would be great. So I'm starting after I cure the blue gel polish. I'm applying this white sheer, like a sheer white over top of it. You don't want the white to be too opaque. You want to make sure that the blue can still peek through. And then while the white is still wet, so it has not been cured, I'm going to use top coat and a dotting tool to create little dots all over, and it kind of creates this really cool watery effect. You want to make sure that the dots that you're placing down, whether you're using a dotting tool or a brush, which I actually used in the other design, so we'll see that in a second, you want to make sure that the dots are placed really close together so that the edges of the circles kind of bleed into each other a little bit. It doesn't bloom like blooming gel would, but when they're close together, they kind of bleed a little bit into each other, and that creates this really cool wavy watery design. If they're too spread out, it'll just look like a bunch of dots. It won't look like the different like watery effect of water and the sun reflecting on the pool. And then for this one over here, I actually used a brush instead of a dotting tool, and I liked how it came out better. So I forgot to turn on the camera while I was doing that one, but I actually end up doing the first one that I did again with a brush because I like that effect better. So I'll show that to you in a little bit when I redo the nail. And then for the 3 middle nails, just going to throw on a whole bunch of glitter from Glitter Mix Canada over here. I like that it had a blue base, but it kind of reflected a bunch of different colors, so it really brought the whole design together. And then I'm just using base coat to kind of encapsulate these this glitter over here so that I have a nice smooth surface for the hand painting that I'm going to do in a second. It doesn't really need like a ton of like encapsulation. The glitter was quite flat. I didn't load it up too much, so I'm just kind of creating almost like a little bit of an encapsulation layer, like I would do with like a thicker gel. Or with a top coat, but I'm just doing it with a base coat, so just creating like a little bit of a thicker layer of base coat, and actually also wiping off my brush in between it, putting it into the bottle so that the loose glitter doesn't end up in my base coat, because that would be annoying if it showed up again in a different design where I didn't want it. But I'm just going to kind of encapsulate, make sure that it's nice and smooth, and then give that a cure. So over here I was comparing the different nails, and you saw that the one done with the brush kind of had like a more organic feel to it with different shapes and sizes, as opposed to the dotting tool where all the dots were kind of like the same shape. Is a little bit not so, as natural as what it would actually look like. So I am using a brush over here and creating different size and different shaped little dots all over, using the top coat on top of the wet uncured white polish over here, the white gel, and it really, I think, makes a huge difference. Over here I'm just kind of cleaning up the sides so that it's not too bulky, and I think that using a brush and having different shapes and sizes of like dots all over really creates a much more realistic effect. So that's how I did that over there. And now I'm going to do a top coat over these 3 nails over here. I like doing hand painting or even stamping or different types of nail art over a matte surface. I find that sometimes on a shiny surface, especially because I did the base coat right before this, and the base coat, it has like a shiny layer to it. I feel like doing art on top of it, sometimes the gel can kind of get a little bit runny and not stay smooth, and over a matte top coat, everything kind of just like grips a little bit better and stays in place. So I just prefer doing art over that, but if that's not something that you enjoy doing or you don't find necessary, then that's like an extra step you don't have to do, but for me, I find it really useful. And now I'm just going to create round balloons, kind of like what you would expect a water balloon to look like. If you've ever done water balloon fights as a kid, you know that you get a bunch of different bright colors, you fill them up with water, and they don't always come out in a perfectly round balloon shape. I mean, most balloons kind of always like come out different shapes, right? You don't always get the same depending on the quality, depending on how much air you put into it. They're always a little bit different, which I think was really, really fun for this design, because you don't have to make a perfect circle, and nor do you have to have all of the different designs, all the different balloons the same shape or the same size, because balloons are always a little bit wonky and not perfectly round, and not every balloon looks the same. So it kind of really creates this fun design where you don't have to be too serious about it. Obviously, if you wanted to and you wanted to make it super perfect, you can. Over here, I'm just adding like a tiny little like half triangle over here to add to the bottom of the balloon so that it looks like it's like tied off with a little knot at the end. I think that little detail adds a big like impact to the design, especially at the end when we do the border and add a little bit more detailing. So this is kind of a design where it doesn't really take full shape until the end, because once I add the outline and I'm gonna add a little like light mark to it with some white gel, it just adds a lot more detail to it. So over here I'm just adding a bunch of balloons. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I kind of kept it in a somewhat rainbow-y kind of order. You can see the snail over here kind of has this like bright orangey red color as well as yellow, and then the next one's gonna have blue and green, and the next one's gonna have pink. So I'm kind of keeping it in like that kind of color story. But of course, if you wanted to keep it to like one or two colors, that part is all, you know, personal choice and design. And I had to do a few layers for this design over here just to get the color and the pigment of the gel polishes to really stand out, especially with the potted gels. So I really like the Vettsy potted gels. Sometimes they're not the best for doing nail art like this. They're great if I'm like doing like an outline or creating like a much broader design, but I felt like when you try to like layer it up into, like, for example, in this case, like a balloon, and kind of create like a very densely pigmented situation with the gel, sometimes the thickness of the solid gel doesn't always work out very well. You could see over here with the green one, this was like a regular bottle gel, and it works a lot better. I was able to create the shape of the balloon much better and fill it in easier, but I wanted to use the colors that I had, and those came in the potted gel, so that's just what I used. But it was a little bit harder to get the color to be as pigmented and as opaque as I wanted it to, because sometimes with the potted gel, like, the color's just so thick that it's hard to spread out easily, and it kind of just wants to clump all together. But it worked out really, really well, and because it's so pigmented, despite having to do it a couple of layers to make sure that it would cure properly, and also to just build up the evenness of the color on the nail, it worked out really, really well. So I really do like the Vettsy potted gels. They come in really handy. And of course, having the loose, like, not the loose, the like bottled gels as well work out really well. You could see here with the blue, pink, and green, it actually was much easier to create the shape and design with it. So you kind of just have to work a little bit with the other ones, but it ends up working out just fine. And even for the ones over here that I did with the bottle gels, just using a brush here, I did go in and do 2 layers for all of them, just to make sure the pigment was like really built up and that it was nice and thick and opaque. I wanted to make sure that everything was just really bright. Also, I found with the pink gel over here that after it cured for the first time, the color was a little bit dulled, and doing the second layer just built up the color, and then it also cured to a more true pinky color that showed when it was uncured. So just taking my time with it. There was nothing really too complicated about this design at all. As you can see, it's really easy. It's just some glitter and then some hand-painted circles or oblongs or kind of circles. Again, not trying to be too perfect with it, because that kind of helps the design. If they were all too perfect, it wouldn't look as fun and childish and realistic. But it took a bit of time, simply because creating the designs and then curing it in between each layer was really like the biggest time eater over here, because I cured it between each layer. But it wasn't a difficult design at all, which is the designs that I love the most. So now, using black from Madame Glam and using a very, very thin liner brush, I'm going to just outline these balloons over here. I think, first of all, it creates nice separation and distinction between the background, especially because once we add the shiny top coat to the background, the colorful glitter is going to show up a lot more. Now, right now it's matte, but once I do the shiny top coat, the colors of the glitter will come out more, and I don't want the balloons to kind of get lost in that and to kind of get yeah, lost. So I'm doing this outline over here, and I'm making sure to separate the area between like the round part of the balloon and then the little triangle at the bottom where I did it to make it look like it's tied off, making sure to take the black outline liner across that area and kind of make them look like two separate shapes next to each other. That really also does help with the image of it being like a balloon that's tied off. Before, when it was just like a single color, it's hard to really figure out what that is. It just looks like a giant blob, maybe even like a fish, just like a blob with a little triangle sticking out. But once you add the detail to this design, it really comes together. So it's kind of one of those, trust the process. It doesn't look as great when you're doing it, but it comes together in the end with all of the detail added to it. So just adding in these different outlines over here. And like I said, a really simple design, a bit time consuming perhaps, because you have to do all of the detail work, and curing between each design or each layer takes some time, because you want to make sure that, well, I wanted to make sure that I did a full cure between each layer so that everything would be fully cured, especially with that solid gel polish. It gets applied a lot thicker, so I wanted to make sure that it was fully cured in between. So that just takes time. It's a bit time consuming, but it's not a difficult design. So it was just a lot of fun, and I really loved doing this set. I feel like it really just brought back some summer nostalgia. It's so sad that as an adult, summer is just not as special as it was when we were a kid. I was thinking about it the other day where I was sitting out on my porch and I was drinking a cup of coffee and reading a book, and I'm just like, I can't believe that my summer, especially because I work for like a corporate job as well. Obviously, YouTube is not my full-time job. I do work for a full-time job, a full-time corporate job, and summertime, like July, August, and beginning of September is our busy season. So I'm actually sitting at my desk for so long during the day. I do work from home, but it is still a full-time, full-hour 9 to 5. And it's so sad that like this is what my summers have been reduced to as an adult. And I just wanted to bring some of that like childhood nostalgia, because back in the day, I mean, summer meant vacation, summer meant fun. Even if you weren't doing anything crazy exciting, just not being in school or sitting at a desk was just the greatest feeling. And now my summers are super busy, and it doesn't have the same joy that it did as in my childhood. Let me know if you feel the same way, or if you have time off during the summer that makes it still have that nostalgic feel to it. And now over here, to add a bit more detailing to this design, I'm using some of the white gel polish from before and kind of adding this little crescent at the edge, and a couple of them I'm also adding this little extra like dot to make it look like there's like light reflecting on it. I think, again, this just adds a bit more detail to the design. It was starting to look like a balloon before with the outline, but once you add this little light streak over here, I feel like it really brings the whole design together and actually looks like a balloon now. So it's just bringing the whole design together with the detailing is really what brings this design to life. And then I'm doing a shiny top coat over all of this because I want the glitter to shine, I want the balloons to shine, I want everything to shine for this one. The glitter actually looked really cool matte, and for a second I thought I was gonna leave it like that, but I don't know, there was something about like having it shiny that just made it more bright and colorful. But I think matte glitter can be really cool. It's just for this design, I really wanted it to feel bright, summery, and also like very glittery, so I wanted to add that element. And now I am using the Makartt Rhinestone Glue. It's like this nice thick glue, and I'm going to create these large like domes over the balloons over here, and that's going to give it this really cool 3D effect. I thought that would just add a little bit more spice to the design. It would add something really interesting and cool instead of just having it flat. And using the Makartt Rhinestone Glue is just really easy. I used it with just a dotting tool over here. It made it really simple to just pick up a giant glob of the rhinestone glue and then kind of create this circle over the balloon. So what I'm doing is I'm literally just placing it down onto the balloon area and then just swirling the dotting tool into the shape that I want, and then as soon as I like how it looks, just kind of lifting it off and kind of breaking the connection between the gel, and then just making sure that I like how thick it is. I wanted it to be quite 3D, especially because I wanted it to be visible. It's kind of not as visible when you're looking at it head on from a top view, so I wanted it to be nice and thick so that you can really see the detailing. And again, nothing too difficult about this design. And then as soon as I have the dome over the balloons as I like it and nice and thick, then I give that a cure. And then that is going to be the end for this for the balloons. And then I just wanted to bring in the rest of the design over here. So I decided for the water nails as well, I would add some giant globs of the gel to kind of make it look like water droplets, I guess. I thought about trying to create like splashes, but I didn't think it would have as much of an impact, especially because the background of the nail is so busy already with like that whole watery design. I didn't think it would stand out as much. So I figured just doing giant globs of gel over here would create this like kind of watery droplet effect. So after I create those designs, I'm going to cure that as well, and that's really the end of the design. So this is the set all together. Let me know what you think. It's definitely bringing back some summer nostalgia for me. Let me know your thoughts on the set down below, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye.